In a high-rise Manhattan apartment, Amy Wilson sat at her desk, focused on a design project with a tight deadline. As the setting sun streamed through the window, her copper hair glowed while she made last tweaks on her graphic tablet. Her home office as a freelance designer was tidy but full of creative energy. Keys jingled as the front door opened. Her husband Richard walked in. "I'm home, Amy," he called out, sounding a bit worn out. "Hey there." Amy turned with a warm smile. "How'd your day go?" Richard loosened his tie and flopped onto the couch. "Same old. 2 client calls, 1 team meeting. A ton of paperwork," he said, pouring himself some water. "How about you?" "I'm almost finished with the new client's logo," Amy showed him proudly. "Just a couple more tweaks, and I'll send it tomorrow." Richard had built a solid career as a sales manager at a major insurance firm. Tall and sturdy but easygoing, his co-workers and clients all trusted him. He met Amy 5 years ago at a mutual friend's party and was smitten right away. He loved her directness and creativity. She adored his kindness and sincerity. Their marriage was happy. While both career-driven, they sometimes chatted about maybe having kids someday. The only shadow over their relationship was Richard's mom, Beverly. "Oh, by the way, Mom called," Richard said casually, missing how Amy's face fell. "She mentioned your birthday next week. She says she's got something special for you." Amy forced a smile. "How nice of her," she said, her voice tight. It had been 15 years since Beverly lost her husband, John. Outwardly elegant, but underneath, sharp as a blade, stubborn as stone. Richard was her whole world, and no one would ever come between them. From day one, Beverly had never warmed to Amy. Beverly acted polite, but Amy knew she still saw her as the woman who stole her son. Whether through backhanded compliments, snide remarks, or fake sweetness, Beverly constantly made Amy feel on edge. "Mom really wants to patch things up with you," Richard said optimistically. This present might be her peace offering. Amy bit back a sigh. Richard always gave his mother the benefit of the doubt. It was endearing but also frustratingly naive. "Could be," she answered. "Did she mention what's inside?" "Says it's a secret. But she mentioned you'd be surprised." Amy smiled through her anxiety. Beverly's surprises always made her uneasy somehow. But for Richard's sake, she kept her cool. "I can't wait," she said. On her birthday, family and friends gathered at Amy and Richard's place for a cozy party. Though nervous, Amy felt better having friends around in her own home. Around 3 that afternoon, the doorbell rang, and when Richard opened the door, there was Beverly. With perfectly styled silver hair and wearing a fancy tweed suit, she looked like royalty. "Thanks for coming," Richard hugged her. "Course I'm coming. It's Amy's big day," Beverly said smoothly and turned to Amy. "Happy birthday, Amy." She kissed her cheek. Her perfume smelled strong, almost suffocating. "Thanks, Beverly," Amy replied politely. "Now, everyone," Beverly raised her voice to get the room's attention. "Let's all go outside to see my gift for Amy. Come on, everyone." People followed her curiously and stepped out to the street in front of the building. There, a brand-new red Mercedes-Benz S-Class sat parked, gleaming in the sunlight. Amy gasped. It was undeniably a gorgeous car. Yet she couldn't ignore the showy, controlling vibe behind Beverly's gift. "Like it?" Beverly asked sweetly. "It's the latest model. Had it specially ordered." As bystanders gushed, she pressed the keys into Amy's hand. "You should be grateful," she said with a smile that felt more like a command. "That's wonderful." "Thanks," Amy replied just as everyone expected. While mixed feelings churned inside, she kept up the smile she'd perfected as a pro designer. Richard's face lit up with surprise and delight. "This is absolutely amazing." He hugged Beverly again. "Amy, what do you think? Isn't it incredible?" Amy studied the car, a vague unease creeping in. What was behind such an extravagant gift? "Yeah, it's wild," she said honestly. Seriously, it was nuts that Beverly Wilson would give something without expecting anything back. A week after the party, Amy got home from shopping in her little car and spotted that shiny red Mercedes parked next to hers in the lot. That car, the one she'd never driven, still stuck out like a red warning sign in her peripheral vision. Gripping heavy shopping bags, Amy headed to the elevator and thought. Richard had asked a bunch of times why she wasn't using his mom's gift. Every time she'd tossed out excuses like, "My car's fine," or "I just need more time." She couldn't tell him the real reason. She didn't buy that this gift came from the goodness of her heart. Back inside, Richard's voicemail played. Running late tonight. I'm having dinner with clients. Don't worry. Love you. Amy dropped her shopping bags and glanced at the red Mercedes through the window. She knew this was her chance. I got time to check out that car. Determined, Amy went back to the parking lot. She took out the keys and approached the car. After making sure there were no cameras, she didn't think Beverly would go that far, but just in case, she opened the driver's door. Sitting inside, the smell of luxury leather filled her nose. Everything looked perfect, the shine of the dashboard, the feel of the seats, the sleek design of the control panel. But when she turned the key and started the engine, she sensed something was off. The engine sounded a little uneven. A slight vibration ran through the steering wheel into her hands. Amy, with no experience in luxury cars, couldn't tell if this was normal. Maybe it's just my imagination, she thought. I'm no Mercedes pro after all. As she browsed the dashboard menu, different features caught her attention. When she went to check the navigation and opened the settings screen, she saw a user profile was already set up. Beverly Wilson. Of course, Amy muttered. A new car, but she's already entered her own info. Out of curiosity, Amy checked the navigation history. It showed addresses for Beverly's place, Amy and Richard's apartment, and a bunch of high-end malls. Digging deeper, she spotted a car tracking feature in the settings. It was turned on. Wait, what? Amy frowned. Reading the details, she saw this feature shared the car's location live with a specific phone app. The connected account name was B. Wilson. A chill ran down her spine. Amy checked out the settings more and found the recording function option. This was also turned on, set to automatically record conversations in the car and send them to the same account. Oh my God, Amy gasped. This wasn't just a coincidence anymore. Beverly meant to keep tabs on her and Richard. With shaky hands, Amy opened the glove box and grabbed the car's manual. Skimming through the pages, she looked for details about how the engine should normally run. It says the S-Class engine is especially quiet, with barely any vibration at idle. The shaking she'd felt was definitely not normal. Amy listened closely to the engine again. There was a faint weird noise. Amy grabbed her phone and looked up Mercedes-Benz S-Class engine problems. Reading through forums, she learned engine issues could get serious. She then checked the dashboard's vehicle info screen to see its history. What she found shocked her. This wasn't new. It had been sold 6 months ago. No way, Amy muttered. Beverly swore it was the latest model, custom ordered just for her. To confirm, Amy jotted down the VIN and pulled up a vehicle history report on her phone. After paying with her card and opening the report, the horrible truth stared back at her. The car was used and had been in a crash. The previous owner wrecked it on the highway, smashing up the front end. They fixed it, but key engine parts weren't properly repaired. The report warned about serious risks during long drives or speeding. Amy's hands trembled. This wasn't a kind gift. Beverly gave her a death trap while planning to spy on her. Worst case. This car could kill Amy. She killed the engine and got out. Cold night air hit her face as she wondered how to tell Richard this nightmare. He really loved his mom. Would he believe such a crazy story? Back in the apartment, Amy decided to start gathering proof. She took pictures, printed the report, and grabbed screenshots of the recording and tracking settings. She'd need rock-solid evidence to show Richard the truth. That night, lying in bed, Amy stared at the ceiling. Now that she knew the real reason for Beverly's gift, she had to act to protect herself and her husband. But she still needed to be careful. She had to find a way out of this mess without hurting Richard's feelings. On a weekend morning, Richard stood by the window with his coffee, looking down at the parking lot. His eyes fixed on the red Mercedes shining in the morning light. He took a slow sip of coffee, deep in thought. It's strange, he turned to Amy, who was sitting on the sofa. It's been 2 weeks since we got that car, and you haven't driven it once. Amy looked up from her laptop and chose her words carefully. Yeah, I still need time to get used to it. Mom's been calling almost every day. Richard sat down on the sofa next to Amy, asking, does Amy like the car? Anything wrong? She seems concerned. Amy took a deep breath. For the past few days, she'd been figuring out the right time to tell Richard the truth. The proof she'd gathered was undeniable. The car's accident history, the engine issues, and worst of all, the surveillance system hidden in the car. But given Richard's bond with his mom, bringing this up wasn't easy. Beverly probably thinks I love the car, Amy said carefully. But you don't, right? Richard stared into Amy's eyes. You're hiding something from me. Lately you've seemed off, especially when my mom's involved. Amy gritted her teeth. Richard, that car's got problems. Problem? What kind? Easier to show than explain. Me stood. Let's go to the car. They walked to the lot in silence. Amy's heart pounded. She knew this might change Richard's life forever. By the red Mercedes, Amy took out the keys. Get in and see, she said. Richard, skeptical, opened the door. What exactly am I looking for? Fire it up first, Amy said from the passenger seat. Richard turned the key and the engine came to life. He wasn't a car expert, but he'd ridden enough luxury vehicles for work to know how a Mercedes S-Class should feel. His expression changed. Sounds off, he said. Feels shaky too. Yeah, no way that's a new car, Amy replied. Definitely not a high-end one. Richard gripped the wheel, his frown deepening with each faint vibration. It's definitely off. But Mom said it's new. Let's start there. Amy pulled out her smartphone and opened the vehicle history report she'd saved. Check this out. Richard grabbed the phone and stared at the screen. Amy saw the color drain from his face. His voice shook. This car's been in an accident. And it says it got sold 6 months ago. Yeah, it's not brand new, just a used car patched up after a wreck, Amy murmured. They botched the engine repairs. Not safe for road trips. Richard gaped at Amy. How's that possible? Wait, there's more. Amy swiped the dash screen to the NAV settings. Look. Beverly Wilson's profile popped up. Active GPS tracking and voice recording. Richard went pale. What the? He stumbled over his words. This is a surveillance device. Yeah, all conversations in this car get recorded and sent to Beverly's account, Amy said. And the car's location gets pinged to her phone non-stop. Richard's hands slid off the wheel onto his knees. He stared out the window like he was piecing things together. Why would Mom? He went blank. Amy squeezed her husband's hand. Richard, I'm not saying Beverly's at fault. But this is totally intentional. Giving us a wreck disguised as new and tracking our moves and conversations. Anger started coloring Richard's face. This is messed up. Clearly Mom lied. I can't wrap my head around it. Why would Mom pull something like this? I don't get it either, Amy answered honestly. But this car's unsafe and our privacy's getting invaded. I think we should get it checked by a pro. Richard shut off the engine and sighed hard. Let's take it to a separate repair shop right away. Without telling Mom a thing. As they got out of the car and walked back to the apartment, Richard froze. How long have you known this? Few days, Amy answered. I wasn't sure how to bring it up. I didn't want to wreck your relationship with Beverly. Richard put his hand on Amy's shoulder. You did the right thing. This is shocking, but I needed to know the truth. Determination burned in his eyes. If Mom really did this, I'll have to rethink my relationship with her. As the elevator moved, Richard murmured. Since childhood, Mom's been controlling my life. I thought she was just overprotective, but I never dreamed she'd go this far. He gave a bitter smile. Mom always had strict standards for my wife. But I chose you. And I stand by that choice. Amy squeezed her husband's hand. We'll get through this together. Back in the apartment, Richard picked up the phone and called a reliable local auto shop. Can you check a car first thing tomorrow morning? Is that possible? He didn't explain everything, just mention their safety concerns. After hanging up, Richard looked at Amy with a sad smile. Thank God you didn't drive that car. If anything had happened. Amy pressed against her husband, resting her head on his shoulder. What should we do now? First, we need to get an accurate check on the car's condition, Richard said determinedly. Then a talk with Mom. The evening light streamed through the window, bathing the room in red. That red light reminded them of the dangerous gift parked downstairs. The next morning, Amy and Richard woke early and drove the red Mercedes to Morrison Auto Repair. It was a solid independent shop Richard had scheduled with. Both stayed quiet, anxious about what might come. At the shop, an older man with neat gray hair greeted them. I'm Tom Morrison. The one you called, he said, extending his hand. Richard Wilson. And this is my wife Amy, Richard said nervously. We're worried about this car. Morrison looked over the red Mercedes carefully. What seems to be the problem? The engine sounds off, Amy said. And we want to make sure this is really a new car. Morrison raised an eyebrow but didn't press further, getting straight to work. Let's start with a computer check. Then we'll take a closer look at the engine. Amy and Richard waited in the shop's office. Coffee cup in hand, Richard stared out the window. I can't believe my mom would do something like this, he finally said. Especially something that'd put your safety at risk. Amy put her hand over his. We can't be sure yet. Let's wait for Mr. Morrison's diagnosis. About an hour later, Morrison came back to the office. He looked grim and held a detailed diagnostic report in his hand. There's something I gotta tell you both, he said as he sat down. This car isn't new. It's been at least 9 months since it was made. Richard leaned in. And the engine's shape. Morrison sighed hard. Truth is, it's risky. The engine mounts were botched and some key parts aren't factory. Push it too hard or drive too long, the whole thing might quit. Could even stall mid-drive, maybe cause a nasty wreck. Amy got goosebumps. That's exactly what she'd figured. Morrison added, I also found strange electronics in the car. He handed over another paper. A tracker linked to the GPS. It's high-tech, not some DIY job. Richard went pale. So it was planted. Absolutely, Morrison agreed. These things don't come standard at dealerships. Somebody custom ordered it. Amy saw Richard's expression freeze. There was a messy mix of anger and sadness there. Thanks, Mr. Morrison, Richard said quietly. Can we get this in writing? The full diagnosis and the dangers. Morrison showed understanding. I'd also recommend leaving the car here until you decide what to do with it. Shouldn't be driven like this. After handing Morrison the keys and riding the elevator back, Richard suddenly punched the wall. Why? His voice trembled with anger and sadness. Why would Mom do this? Amy held her husband. She had no answers. She could only soothe his aching heart. I need to see Mom, Richard said firmly. That afternoon, Amy and Richard drove to Beverly's luxury apartment. In the car, Richard stayed silent and Amy left him to his thoughts. When they reached Beverly's building, the doorman greeted them in the lobby. Mr. and Mrs. Wilson, welcome, he said brightly. Want me to let Mrs. Wilson know you're here? No, it's a surprise, Richard forced a smile. Mom will be so happy to see us. They took the plush elevator up to the top floor and paused at Beverly's penthouse door. Richard rang the bell, and Beverly opened it herself moments later. Richard, me. What a wonderful surprise, she said, pretending delight. But her eyes immediately noticed their grim expressions, and her smile vanished. Is everything okay? Let's talk inside, Richard's voice was cold. Beverly anxiously led them to the living room. Should I make some tea? No thank you, Amy quietly replied. Once the three were seated on the sofa, Richard took out Morrison's diagnostic report. Mom, we need to talk about the car you gave Amy as a present. Beverly tensed for a moment but quickly composed herself. That beautiful car. Did Amy like it? You said it was new, Richard looked straight into her eyes. Sure, Beverly smiled. I specifically ordered the latest model. Richard put the diagnostic report in front of her. That's a lie, his voice shook. It's not a new car but a used one with crash history. The engine's in bad shape and could cause a major accident on long drives. Beverly's face froze for a second. That can't be. I got it from an authorized dealer. That's not everything, Amy said quietly. They installed recording devices in the car, set to capture every conversation and send them to your phone. Beverly's face paled. That's ridiculous, she stood up. I just wanted to give a thoughtful gift. Richard rose too, facing his mother. Enough, Mum. The evidence is all here. He produced more documents. These are the car's purchase records. You bought this car from a used dealer and had surveillance devices installed after repairs. Beverly went white. She slumped back onto the sofa and stayed quiet for a while. Finally, she glanced up. There was a chill in her eyes they'd never seen before. You deserve someone better, she told Richard. That woman is using you. Mom. Richard couldn't hold back his anger anymore. Amy is my wife. And you're the one who endangered her life. That car was totally safe, Beverly insisted. It might have some problems but nothing major. Not major, Amy said in shock. Mr. Morrison said the engine could die at high speed. So what? Beverly's voice turned icy. I just wanted to get rid of her, make it look like an accident. A thick silence hung in the room. Richard gaped at his mother, struggling to understand. You tried to kill me. Amy's voice was faint. Beverly shrugged. I didn't think that far. I just thought you might freak out and stop driving. Then it'd be Richard's. She smiled at Richard. It was for you, buddy. Richard looked horrified and sick. We're through, Mom, he said, his voice shaking. This is where it ends. Richard. Beverly shot up. You're my only child. You'd ditch me for her. Amy isn't just some woman, Richard said low but steady. She's my wife, my other half. After what you did to her, I won't call you mother again. Beverly's face twisted. You'll regret this, she hissed. She's beneath you. Bye, Mom. Richard held Amy's hand. Don't reach out. We'll handle this through lawyers. As they moved toward the door, Beverly threw in a final line. I only wanted to protect you, Richard. But Richard didn't turn back. When they entered the elevator and the doors closed, he let out a heavy sigh. It's over, he said wearily. Amy rested her head on her husband's shoulder. You okay? Nope, not at all, Richard said honestly. Things'll get better from now on. He squeezed Amy's hand. We'll get through this together. As they stepped outside, a soft sunset wrapped around them. 1 year later, Amy and Richard were eating breakfast in their new backyard. Morning light lit up the garden flowers while birds chirped happily. More coffee? Richard asked, holding the pot. Thanks. Amy smiled, reaching for her cup. Her round belly showed the new life growing inside. Their baby was due in 2 months. Richard gently rested his hand on his wife's belly, smiling at the little movements he felt. Full of energy. Yeah, she kicks day and night, Amy laughed. Takes after you. Their lives had changed so much this past year. After confronting his mother, Richard began therapy to work through their relationship. Distinguishing between love and control wasn't easy, but counseling was helping him heal. They'd moved into their new home 6 months ago. Leaving their Manhattan apartment for a spacious house with a backyard marked a fresh start. Amy kept up her design work from home while getting ready for the baby's arrival. Richard stayed at the same company but had started to prioritize work-life balance. I'll get the baby's room painted this afternoon, Richard said, taking a bite of toast. The mix of lilac and cream was a genius idea. As a designer, I take credit for that, Amy winked. That room's gonna be perfect. Their chat got cut off by the phone ringing. Richard checked the screen and his face tightened a little. It's Mom. Amy watched her husband's reaction. His thing with Beverly was still messy. After what happened, Richard kept his distance but couldn't totally bail, sticking to just a monthly call. The pros told him to keep it limited, so he did. Richard answered the phone. A short talk later he hung up. Mom says she wants to send stuff for the baby, he said, looking uneasy. That's... Amy hesitated. Relax. Richard took his wife's hand. I won't let Mom pull that crap again. If she sends anything, I'll check it first. Amy nodded, reassured. Beverly had softened a little after hearing about her grandchild. But Amy still didn't fully trust her. I know you'll protect us, she said quietly. Richard pulled his wife close. We're a family. There'll be hard days, but we'll face them together. The morning sun rose higher, bringing a new beginning. Though shadows remained, Amy and Richard walked on. And their coming child would fill their lives with hope and joy.